welcome back to another episode of Behind the Lens. Hard to believe we are at the end of September 2017, but yes, we are. And there's Pam shaking her head and grimacing in the booth. Welcome. I am film critic Debbie Elias. You can find my movie reviews and interviews 24/7 in print and online, including behindthelensonline.net. But every Monday you can find me right here at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Adrenaline Radio. And I am so excited today. Two of my favorite guys are here. I have the wonderful writer, director, actor, musician LUKE SABIS is back. And, of course, Charles Gorgano, his partner in crime.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
This is so fun. The last time you guys were here, your film, your first venture, Missing Child, was on the festival circuit.
Right.
Your short film, Ghost Tenant, was out there on the fest circuit.
Right. We were doing a screening. Actually, yeah, we were doing a short theatrical run.
Yeah.
With Lynn.
Yeah, of Ghost Tenant. Yeah. Because I moderated your Q&A.
Yes, you did.
I did.
You certainly did.
And but now, here it is, folks. Here it is. Missing Child is out on DVD and Blu-ray. And
on Amazon.
And on Amazon.
To stream on Amazon.
Only Amazon? We didn't go Hulu, iTunes, all of that?
At the moment, just Amazon.
Okay.
Yep. But also on Amazon, it's also available as a web series. Yes, it's a new thing. You can watch it as the full feature or as an 8-part web series. If you don't have that much time each day to watch a movie,
Ooh.
If you have 10, 11 minutes, you can watch an episode of Missing Child. It's
my God.
8 episodes in all.
Okay, see now, having seen the film, I now have to go and see how you have broken it out to serialize it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, that fascinates me.
Cool. It's on Amazon Prime, and actually it doesn't cost anything on Amazon Prime. You might get some commercials or something in there, depending on if you're an Amazon Prime member or not. But it's free on Amazon.
Oh, well, free. Everybody knows. That is one of my favorite words. Is free. But in addition to these two handsome gentlemen, we also have another guest calling in at the midway point of the show, Kelley Smoot Garrett. Several weeks ago, when Janess Rouse was here, you heard us start talking about Princess April Morning Glory, written by Letitia Fairbanks. Now, all you classic film fans out there know exactly who Letitia is. She is Douglas Fairbanks' niece. And Kelley is Letitia's stepdaughter. So this book was all hand done. It's illuminated calligraphy. Every illustration, every panel, every page was painstakingly done by Letitia. It took several years to do. It is finally in book form. Although I have to say, as I've said before, I saw the original illustrations, and these are full 3-foot plus pages. Each page of the book hand done by Letitia. Yeah, Luke's here trying to vision. Okay, 3 feet. 3 feet is theoretically your arm's length.
Right.
And you figure each page is done that way, and each page is outlined in gold leaf, and it's stunning. And Kelley is going to be here to talk about this and how everybody can find this gorgeous, gorgeous book. Of course, I want the original illustration panels, but what can we say?
Someday.
But, the journey, Letitia's journey in creating the book, the Fairbanks legends and stories, because, of course, Douglas Fairbanks was married to Mary Pickford.
Right.
So, and as Kelley will explain, there are a lot of fun illustrations, and Luke and Charles were looking through the book earlier.
Right. Very, very nicely done. I mean, it's really well put together.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to hear the backstory of everything is so fascinating. But, equally fascinating is your journey on not only making Missing Child, and getting it on the fest circuit, but you're self-distributing.
Right.
So I'm hoping Luke will have some pearls of wisdom in our conversation today for all you filmmakers out there. I know several of you. Kevin Good, I am thinking of you. With self-distribution. for Dinner with the Alchemist. So if you're listening, and I know you do listen, maybe not live, but I know you listen to the podcast, maybe you will get some pearls of wisdom from Luke. But this is an interesting journey, and one that, as I mentioned before the show, I am seeing more and more filmmakers I'm running into, and because of limitations on these indie films, they're now and waiting so long to try and get a semi-attractive distribution deal without giving up their rights to their property. Self-distribution is becoming more of a thing.
Right. I mean, there's just so many more options. I mean, you know, nowadays there's a lot more that you can do by yourself, and it's nice to kind of keep some of the control of the film, because the problem in traditional distribution, you're handing it over to somebody, and then you're kind of at their mercy to a certain degree. And there were some distributors I spoke to, as far as, you know, we considered going a traditional route, but it just did not seem appealing enough, or there weren't enough incentives to really continue that way. I wanted to take the shot and see what's out there. Because like I said, there's so many options now to, you know, for the filmmakers, the producers of a film, to actually get out there and have some control over what you do and how you put it out there. So that was
I'm sure that a distributor would not have said, "Oh, let's break this into an 8-series web series."
or maybe they would have, and it would have annoyed me. That's probably more likely.
Well, now, you know, Charles, tell the audience, for those that were not here for your visit 2 years ago,
okay,
you know, or who have not seen Missing Child as yet, which you can get on Blu-ray, DVD, and on Amazon, free.
Absolutely.
I'm just reminding people.
The web series.
But you can buy
the web series. But you can buy the DVD and the Blu-ray.
That's right.
So tell people what this story, Missing Child, is about.
Well, I think it's about a young girl who was lost, and she was in orphanages and lost along the way, and then she runs across this gentleman that she hooks up with, and they think they might find her father, her real father, and that's what I think she's a young girl in search of her past and her, you know, who she is. And they go to meet this man, Henry, at his home in the outskirts of wherever, the city. And that's where the story takes place after, you know, they go there. So I think it's about a young lady who's looking for some answers about her life. And I think that's what it is. And she finds them, some of them. Maybe not all of them, but it's there's a lot of twists and turns in the story. So you have to watch the movie or watch the story to really appreciate it.
There are many twists and turns. And Luke, you wrote it, you directed it, and you co-wrote. You played the boyfriend. Well, you co-wrote with Michael Barbuto.
Yeah.
You play, you know, and the wonderful Kristen Rulin plays our lovely Gia.
Yes.
And you play the
Joe Fallon,
possibly unsavory boyfriend.
Yes.
And Charles plays Henry. I'm sorry, I can't get beyond dirty old man. I'm sorry.
I mean, he's not
he
really.
He can hear you. He's.
I'm sitting right here, you know. He's not really a dirty old man. He's a man. He's looking for answers himself, you know.
But Henry has a creepy vibe to him.
Yeah.
A very creepy
absolutely.
vibe.
You know, the characters in general do have a dark side. All the characters do. I mean, it's something. It's not really typical on films that are being released, say in the mainstream Hollywood films. It's an indie film, and we went, you know, all out as far as that. As far as, you know, the characters that are not necessarily likable. They all have qualities that kind of make you, you know, question whether you want to get on board with their journey in some ways. Yeah. And that's kind of I wanted to, you know, face that challenge. I didn't want you to like them just because, oh, they're wonderful, great people, but because, well, they're human beings, and you still want to care about them, even if they're not necessarily the nicest people.
Yeah, they all have a deep, dark past of some kind. You know, like Gia, of course, Henry has this deep, dark past, and Joe's a man that's, you know, whatever. So.
He's got a deep, dark present.
He's got a deep, dark presence, maybe.
Actually, in the story, my character, Joe, he is probably the most present. The character of Gia and Henry are kind of tormented in their past and trying to deal with it in the present, trying to deal with what they've all been through. Where Joe he's somewhat of an opportunist.
Yes.
And he's in the present trying to
Look out for his future.
Look out for his future. That's absolutely right.
Yeah,
that's what Joe's doing.
That's kind of what he's doing, and under the guise of looking out for other people's future. But,
But it's those darker qualities that is what makes this film so intriguing. Because it's not cut and paste.
Right.
It's not paint by the numbers.
Absolutely not.
And it's those dark colors that you bring to light that is what make each of these characters so interesting.
Right. I mean, it is a. I've always thought. I've mentioned this earlier to you. It's a journey. I consider it a journey into darkness. And you know, we were talking before the show about color correction and so on. And actually, in the film, as the film progresses, it does literally get darker. I mean, we go deeper into the night, but also, if you paid attention, you'll see the tone of the image getting darker and darker as we go. But it doesn't end there. You know, it's a journey into that, but it comes out of that.
And you know, that was one of my big things when I first saw the film, was that visual tone, the visual tonal bandwidth. And as we get into Henry's house, we get this more of a yellow pallor, like a sickly pallor. But then on the flip side of that, you know, we have a beautiful, beautiful child's bedroom that is just, the blues are absolutely gorgeous. You know, they just sweep you away. And then the cinematography, as the camera comes up into a corner shot of the room and you just see everything. It's just exquisitely done with some moonlight streaming in a window. Yeah. And
we had Francisco Bulgarelli who did the cinematography, and it was one of his earlier films. He's done a bunch of things since, but he took a lot of time for that. I was very happy to get, he was very dedicated to it all and took the time to get the shots right.
Oh, yeah.
So
I mean, it's
nice.
Just absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of my favorite parts in the film. And
I remember you mentioning that,
especially the bedroom scene.
Shot,
Yes, because you don't expect that.
Right.
In a film of this nature, you don't expect to see that.
Right.
And you certainly don't expect to see this more ethereal, metaphorically ethereal shot coming in.
Right.
You know, overlooking this girl. Almost like a mother.
Yeah. I mean, I think of it actually also. I mean, I don't want to give away too much from the story, but it is. There is another character in this story, really, that I don't want to get too much into without giving it away. So I'll just stop.
Okay.
About on that front there.
You know, what is it that led you to? Because you have other screenplays out there. And I don't know whether you're going to cast this guy in any of them, but
I hope so. Come on, I need to work.
Yes.
Yes, you do, Charles. You
I need to work. I need to make the money. Anyway.
But you know what made Missing Child the one that was the first one to get made for your directorial debut?
Right. It was kind of like a combination of things that kind of seemed. I think with any film, it's always tough to get a film made. You know, there's a lot of things that go into it, money and a lot of resources. And it's just when something's a number of the things come together that just something clicks and says, okay, I could do it. I could see the end. This can happen. And one of them was having Charles. That I said, okay, Charles is perfect for the role, and that's a big part of the film. I mean, he really is, in my mind, the main character in the film. Him and Kristen. Between the two, those I see those as two leads. And
we'll
that
just
was a big
fluff
part.
you to the side.
I'm along for the ride. Yes.
Yeah.
But it was kind of seeing just the idea that it could be done. It was a film that takes, it's an indie film. It takes place in minimal locations. It's only maybe 2 or 3 locations. Some stuff out in the road, but it was all manageable, and I could just see it with the money I knew I had access to. That this could be done.
Well, I'm curious. What was the bigger learning curve, directing or self-distributing?
Wow. Because I actually, as soon as you said directing, I think of producing. A lot of, as much as I like to think of this as my directorial debut.
But you were producing this, too.
Well, I had other producers helping, Sebastian Rogers, who helped on the producing, but also... But I did a lot of things with the producing afterwards, and that goes into the question on distribution. Now, which did I learn more about? Well, the distribution is still going as far as I'm concerned. So that learning curve is still going there. But There's so many things involved in the directing, and like I said, it's probably as a producer I learned a lot more, because I think I was working more as a producer than a director, unfortunately. You know, that's something, I guess, okay. That's something,
now the synapses are connecting here.
Yeah. Right. Something that I did learn is I'd like to get a producer because I would like to be more of a director. And I think if I had, you know, maybe more help with on the production side, producing side, I could kind of concentrate on the directing. Because unfortunately, a lot of it goes into the production is really everything, especially with an indie film.
Right.
You just don't have the time to sit back and do the, you know, more of the directorial work. But yeah, hopefully next one will be better, more.
So, you know, Charles, because you've now done a couple films with this man. You've done Ghost Tenant and Missing Child.
Exactly.
What is it? And I'm hoping that you're not going to say that, oh, well, it doesn't matter what he writes, I'll do it. That it has to be good. So what is it about Luke's projects, about his scripts, that attract you to the characters?
Well, first of all, when I read Missing Child, I said to Luke one day, I said, this is something you could win an Academy Award for.
It's a page-turner.
Yeah, it's a page-turner. For this, I mean, also this character, Henry, I mean, it's just like, and luckily I won an award in Boston for it, acting award. And I feel very good about that. So, yeah, anyway. I just want to throw that out there.
Wasn't it the first film festival?
It was. Boston, Boston International Film Festival.
That's when I reviewed it for the very first film festival.
Right. Yeah. And we won. I won, and Luke won some awards. And when I read the script, it was just like, I was just like, man, I got to do this. It's like, you know, I want to do this really bad. And then with Ghost Tenant, it's a fun, it's a sad movie, but it's a happy movie. It's a movie. It's
very different in tone.
Yeah,
different in tone, but it's so real. You know, people who, when we all think about the end or whatever, we don't want to go to that other side, so we want to stay here. And I think with Ned in this particular film, I mean, you know, he wants to stay here, and we all want to stay here, and it makes it interesting. So I love the story. I mean, I love the story.
I love Ghost Tenant, and you have some beautiful effects in there.
Right, right.
And that's actually the only place currently that's available is on the Blu-ray. We'll probably be trying to get up on Amazon and elsewhere, but for now it's just on the Blu-ray. And that's a short film. But it is. I consider it a prelude to the feature. Yeah.
So I'm curious here. What do we have? Special features. We have the theatrical trailer. We have subtitles in English, Spanish, French, and German. Right. Whoa, and more.
We are not kidding around.
Okay, and more. What is the and? Okay, what is the and more?
Well, the and more would include. That would be one of the main things is the Ghost Tenant short film.
Okay.
We also have on the Blu-ray. It's different with the Blu-ray and the DVD because Blu-ray can.
I'm reading the Blu-ray box. Yes.
The box cover is actually the same. But the contents are slightly different. There's more on the Blu-ray. More.
I want to know the more. What's the more?
We have deleted scenes. We have 3.
Ooh.
3 deleted scenes from Missing Child. So, and then we have, I know there's a montage, a picture montage set to music of some shots, photographs from the film and also behind the scenes. And there's also a music video for the song that comes on during the credits. It's called Now I'm Going. And that's, we have a music video that's also on, that's on both.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, and Luke brought me my own copy today,
right,
so I get to see them.
Yeah, and also there is some backstories. It's kind of some fictitious background news articles on the original abduction of Elizabeth Whittle, of the character of Henry Whittle's missing daughter. And that's actually on both the DVD and the Blu-ray.
Oh, very cool.
It's quite extensive. Check it out.
That is. Okay, see, now I'm going to have to do a Blu-ray review on the film.
Oh, man, you should. Yeah,
you should. That's good. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, well, now, on this one I will. You know, when people don't send me product, I don't do it. But, you know, if you send me or hand me product, I will actually do it. But, yeah, I love... And I think we're losing so much with indie, with not a lot of extra content being put on. Everybody thinks, oh, we can stream stuff. There is really something wonderful about having it all on the disc, and you can just go through it, and you can jump, and it's like, ooh, 3 deleted scenes. Oh, I want to see the third one first, or, ooh, I want to see the music video.
Right.
I love those options. You can, based on your own mood, based on your time.
Right. Right. Yeah, that was kind of the, I wondered, I questioned, should I put out a DVD Blu-ray? Because obviously it's, it's a dying medium.
Not in my house.
No, nor for me. But out there in the world, it does seem to be less of that going on. And just kind of what you were saying, it was sort of like a way of maybe bringing closure to the project, kind of adding everything together. And just kind of keeping it self-contained and having a place to go, just maybe for us, if nowhere else. But if for an audience member, everything you were saying, it is the type of thing. It's all there if you want to get more into the film and behind the film and all. So.
I mean, that's one of the great things. I think one of my favorite DVD/Blu-ray, Baz Luhrmann's Moulin Rouge, because on there we have the option of changing 12 camera angles for certain of the musical numbers so that you can actually get different perspectives. And that mesmerized me. I think I actually wore out. I actually bought more copies. I actually bought more copies because I played it so much.
Wow.
Because I just find things like that extremely interesting.
Right.
And, directors that do coverage shots, throw some of those coverage shots on there. Let your audience see what was driving your eye.
Right. Right. It is all about how much you want to get involved in the story. Some films you really want to get more deeply into, and that provides some of that if you want to do that. Because I find it frustrating sometimes if you get a DVD and there isn't anything else other than that. It's like, I feel a little gypped.
No, I want something. I want more bang for my buck.
Yeah.
Right.
If I'm going to spend the money, or otherwise I can just watch it, on Spectrum on demand or something, pay my $3.99 or $6.99.
Right.
And that's it. Because that's another thing. You don't get all those extras. Some people don't realize when you're paying on demand, you don't get any extras.
Right. Yeah.
You get the film, and that's all you get.
Right.
But once you get past the initial release, you want extras.
Yeah, but also if you have the Blu-ray or the DVD, you always have it at home to watch. And you can watch it 4 months from now, and if it's not online anymore, then you don't, so you can go back and watch it again. So, I remember that film. I want to show it to so-and-so. And
yep. So I want to know, Charles, how many times have you watched the Blu-ray?
100? I don't know. I've watched it a lot.
Have you watched all the extras?
Yeah, but I've also watched. I've been watching. Okay, I've been watching the webisodes because I love those.
He just doesn't know what's going to happen next.
I'm watching them, and I'm doing my computer stuff, and I'm watching it, whatever. And, well, it's fun.
Oh, good. So when your computer stuff is screwed up, we know to blame Luke.
That's right. That's right.
Or he's mesmerized by his own performance.
That's right.
Well, as he should be.
Yes, I am.
Well,
I mean, because Charles, you are an actor. Luke, you also act. There are some actors, they do not watch themselves. They do not watch their performances.
Right.
Do you guys watch your performances? Do you like to watch your performances? Do you use them to constructively instruct yourself about how to improve?
I do, absolutely. I look at myself and I say, why did he do that? Maybe I should have. It's just, was I into it enough there? Was I real enough? Was I there at that moment in time? Was I really that person? Was I Henry?
Trust me, you were Henry.
Thank you. So that's good. I like to think that. But I have other things I've seen myself in that I said, oh my God, I don't want anybody to see this. So.
It's funny from an acting point of view. I would belong to the former group of I don't watch.
Yeah.
I would just make sure it's there. Okay, but as Missing Child is more like, say, director/producer, so I watch it a lot. And it's, as an actor, it was very helpful to me because I did learn a lot about my own performance just by seeing. I mean, watching yourself on camera is nothing like it. You really, because they say the camera, you can't really fool anything. You can't fool the camera. Camera sees everything.
Right.
So it was very, very informative as far as that.
See, I hate watching myself on camera. I do not. I will fast when I have to go over the edits of my show.
Yeah,
I don't watch.
It's uncomfortable seeing yourself, just like hearing yourself. You know, if you're not used to it, it's kind of a weird thing. But again, if you're, when you're actually making it, editing, you gotta look and you gotta get, you gotta get down and dirty as far as what's working, and that's a good thing, because again, it makes me more, watch more closely, seeing like why does this work, why does it not work. So it's very, very helpful, very helpful. But one thing I really enjoy, I still enjoy watching Charles and Kristen's performance. I really do.
Thank you.
I do. I mean, I just, because with putting the web series together, I had to watch it a whole lot because we put like little trailers at the beginning, at the end of each piece.
Sure.
So I'm looking at the footage a lot more than I would have ever expected to, and I really like, again, looking at their performances. It was really, I enjoy it. I can just sit back as a viewer, not a director or anything, and just watch and get kind of lost in the moment, and it's good stuff.
Now you have piqued my curiosity so much. I have to watch the web series because I want to see where you have cut, how you have broken this into a series, because the film has such a great flow to it.
Right. I have to tell you, though, Debbie, he did a great job with putting it into the series. I mean, he really did, because I watch it the way it's divided up, and it makes you want to, I got to watch the rest of it. I got to watch the rest of this. And he did I got to hand it to Luke, not that I'm trying to, whatever, but
Charles, we all know you want to ensure that you're in his next film. We know this.
That's right. You got that right, Debbie. You got that right.
Write your check later.
Yeah. Yeah. Write the check. Yeah.
No, but you got to watch the series.
Make sure you get the residuals first so that you can write the check to him.
That's right. So you'll see what I mean when you watch it.
So what other wonderful projects have you been? Oh, well, I do want to ask you though about your sound design, Luke, because sound is so important, and more it is becoming extremely critical in film. Something that a lot of directors overlook. A new film that's out, Shot, starring Noah Wiley. Jeremy Kagan, who did The Chosen, has done television for years. Jeremy co-wrote and directed this one. Sound design, because Noah plays a sound editor of all things. Oh, wow. He gets shot. So he is on a gurney for almost the rest of the film. And it's in real time. That 2/3 of the film is in real time.
Wow.
And so he is very limited. Lying on a gurney, he's very limited as to the character can't see everything. So it's very sonically dependent. And you hear everything. You hear sirens. You hear voices. You hear footsteps. You hear what's going on around. Yeah. And the attention to sound. And that's something with Missing Child. You pay attention. You paid attention to your sound design here.
Yeah, we had a really good sound design. The head of the sound department was Tom Marks. He's done a lot of stuff over at Warner Brothers and did a lot of things. Good background, very, very dedicated to the project, and he did a great job. It's one of those things. I do think it was really, a lot of attention was spent. Sometimes I feel like that's the kind of thing people don't pay attention to enough when they're watching things. People are watching things on any kind of device nowadays, and may not really appreciate that sort of thing. But that's something I'm very proud of, that aspect of the film, and I hope people can kind of put themselves in a place where they can appreciate it. Because it's that's the great thing about theater. You go to a theater, you get the full sound effect, what's going on, and that's not necessarily the case when you're watching it at home.
Right.
You can have that, but you have to kind of take that attention yourself to kind of put yourself in the environment. Right. But it's very important. Sounds very important. My original background in performing arts is as a musician, so that's kind of where I'm coming from. I appreciate the sound very much, and I like what things are done with it, and it's some great stuff going on nowadays, because in all everything is of course advancing in the technology of filmmaking, but sound probably more than picture in a way over the last couple decades.
Well, and I think I may have mentioned this to you at some point in the past. Avengers, the first Avengers movie, that is something that to this day, I don't care how many times I see that film, the sound design. I have issues with it. You cannot hear Scarlett Johansson's dialogue in some of the sequences because the mix is just not balanced.
Right.
Don't have dialogue if you're not going to hear it. Or if you have dialogue, have it be off camera so we don't know there's dialogue.
Right.
If we're not going to be able to hear it.
Right.
But yeah, I love these full-bodied oral soundscapes now. It's like Paula Fairfield. I have to give Paula a shout out. An incredible, incredible sound designer, sound editor. She did the sound design on Hands of Stone, Edgar Ramirez in the Roberto Duran story. And the lengths that she went to create the ambient sound down in Panama of all the different voices, all the different dialects. Incredible punches on bodies that are definitely different than punches into punching bags. Punching in a street is a lot different than punching on a mat in an arena in Vegas.
Right.
Impeccable balance and design. And Paula, by the way, is the mother of dragons. She is the woman responsible for all of the dragon sounds in Game of Thrones.
Oh my God.
But she is one of my favorite sound designer. And, I've had so many of the guys from Formosa Group on the show. Tim Hogenacker, who is the guru of Dolby. Dolby Atmos. Tim is the man. He does about 85% of the Dolby sound that's out there today.
Wow.
Frank Mangini has talked about, and Frank's got Oscars. Scott Hecker. So sound is so critical.
Oh my God, yes.
Especially, Frank did the Revenant, and and I know you've seen the Revenant. All about sound with the crackle of ice and snow and twigs and the wind.
And the bear.
And yes, Charles, and the bear. And the bear. So yeah, but sound is something. And see, even in I scribbled notes, and it got a double underline, Luke. Come on. It got a double underline. Yeah, Well, she has been on hold, has she not? Kelley called in extra early, didn't she? Well, we're gonna bring Kelley Smoot Garrett on and talk a little about classic film and swashbuckling Douglas Fairbanks. You remember him, don't you, Charles?
I remember him well. He was in my era.
Kelley Smoot Garrett, are you there, Kelley?
I sure am. How you doing?
I am fine. Welcome to Behind the Lens. It's so good to talk to you again.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's fabulous to be here.
And you are here. We are joined today. Writer, director, musician, and actor Luke Sabis is here. Actor Charles Gorgano is here.
Hello, Kelley.
Hi, Kelley.
Hi.
And they were looking at Letitia's beautiful book before we went on air today.
It's great, beautiful book. It's very nice. Yeah, I'm very impressed.
And
thank you so much.
And of course, Charles has been around long enough. Charles remembers Douglas Fairbanks.
That's right. Yeah, I remember him well.
We've established that.
Just don't tell anybody.
So, and all my regular listeners, they've already heard Janess Rouse and I. We were just going gaga over Princess April Morning Glory back in August, the last time Janess was here.
Yes.
And for all of the listeners, tell them, what is the backstory of Princess April Morning Glory?
Well, it began the night Letitia's uncle, Douglas Fairbanks, died in 1939. And Letitia decided to create a work of art and literature that would be suitable to honor her uncle. And so she began drafting the first copies of Princess April Morning Glory up. And she began the whole process. And I know one of the questions Janess and you had in August was, how long did it take Letitia to lay out and write and calligraphy and illuminate and paint and illustrate the book? And it took a little under 2 years for her to do that, about 18 months to 2 years. She worked on it steadily from December 1939, when Douglas Fairbanks died, through to early 1941. And that's when they took it on its road show to New York City and to get it published.
And I mean, that is mind-boggling. I think now about authors that, a perfect example like James Patterson cranks out several books a year. My friend Lisa Scotolini, Lisa cranks out several books a year now. And you look at something like Princess April Morning Glory, and is there anybody out there today that would have the patience to write a book, illustrate a book, and go to all the lengths she went to tell this story?
Yes. Well, she was very well schooled in the old crafts of Hollywood, which meant that all the details of any project had to be perfect and of historical nature, researched and documented and reproduced in that fashion, so that the overall film or movie or picture or whatever they were working on was properly represented. And Letitia did a great deal of research before she ever picked up a pen and began to draw anything. And she went to the Huntington Library there in LA and studied the illuminated manuscripts of the medieval ages. Wow. And she reproduced a medieval manuscript exactly the way they would have in the 1100s or 1200s.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
That's
well,
impressive.
I was telling the boys that, you were kind enough to show me the originals of the original pages, every single page of this beautiful, beautiful book. And I was telling them her attention to detail, so meticulous, with actual little sequins, little jewels on the crowns, set in the center of little stars. Just beautiful. And that's the kind of detail I expect to see that on a film produced by Louis B. Mayer. I do not expect to see that by anyone today.
Right.
Yes, it's a bit of a lost art. But Letitia was always reminding me, back in the day, the studios kept complete rosters of plasterers, artists, portrait artists, bookbinders, seamstresses, along with the obvious set designers and costumers, things like that. But there were all these, there were bricklayers. There were people who could construct anything and everything that might be wanted on a movie set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and she definitely took all those lessons to heart and put them into this book.
I'm curious, Kelley, when did you become aware of this book? When did Letitia, show this to you, tell you about it? I'm curious as to how that transpired.
Right. So my parents divorced when I was quite young, and my father remarried Letitia when I was 6. And I met Letitia for the first time when I was 4 years old. Mm-hmm. And I remember her at that time reading to me Princess April Morning Glory. She pulled out the original, and she would do this at least once a time on one of my trips. And she would read to me the story when I was a little girl.
Oh, my God.
And it was just the most marvelous, wonderful experience of my life. Wow. People ask me, how did I become aware of who Douglas Fairbanks and Mary Pickford was? Mm-hmm. And it's hard for me to remember because they've always been a part of my consciousness. Mm-hmm. Because they were always a part of Letitia's life.
It's the fact that she started reading this to you when you were 4 years old. And sitting there, I can just imagine you as a 4-year-old turning these big, huge pages,
yes.
Of the illuminated, the illuminations. Oh my God! And that never left you.
No, none of it ever would, because Dad and Letitia's raising of me, although my mother did most of it, my experiences with Dad and Letitia were just so memorable. Mm-hmm. Because they were so completely different than my upbringing in New York City.
Mm-hmm. Well, something that is so fun about Princess April Morning Glory, when we look at the characters and we have Prince Chivalry, and we have the Wicked King, and we have the Wise Wizard, and we have the Evil Fairy Misery. And all of these bear a striking resemblance to classic film stars that we all know and love.
Yes.
Can you talk?
Oh, Letitia had lots of help in people posing for the characters. And as you and Jeunesse discussed back in August, her cousin, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., posed for Prince Chivalry. And he came over with a costume and a sword and adopted a pose. And,
oh, and Luke just happened to turn right to the page.
People didn't draw from still photos.
Yeah, Luke just happened to turn right to the page of Prince Chivalry. I think he's figuring out what he wants to do for his next film.
Oh, great. Let's talk.
So, obviously, and Letitia's artwork is so beautiful. Wow. Yes, and Charles is looking now. Charles is recognizing, Charles is, But, so, we recognize traits of Douglas Fairbanks Jr. in Prince Chivalry. Right. What about the Wicked King? I love the King.
That was family friend John Barrymore. That was who, and it was also a bit. Letitia always said she liked Sam DeGrasse. She felt that he, who was one of the silent actors in Douglas Sr.'s films, she thought Sam DeGrasse always played a great bad guy. But when it came time to draw the king, she got John Barrymore, who was at that point in her life easier and more appropriate to grab a costume, come over and pose for her.
Do you have any idea how long people would pose for her in order to capture the illustration?
My sense, I honestly don't know the answer to that question, but from her stories that she would tell me, I would sense an evening of sketching would serve to capture the image and the pose she wanted, and then that was all that was really needed. She would take it from her sketches from there.
Because, the pose of Douglas Fairbanks Jr. as Prince Chivalry is just, it's almost as if it's lifted right out of one of his films and he's coming off the movie screen. Yes.
It's a great action shot.
And, of course, then she made great use of color in bringing these illustrations to life. We have the beautiful, we have beautiful Princess April Morning Glory, who's in these softer pastels and, love and mint greens and, baby pinks. But we have Prince Chivalry, who's vibrant in red and purple, and, and the King also. Now, we have the Evil Fairy Misery, who some people I have read believe it's harkens to Marlene Dietrich. Luke is looking and making a face here. He's looking at the picture, and Charles is going, could be.
Yep.
But
it definitely could be, and Marlene Dietrich did play a role in the family. She dated Doug Jr. In the time before this was drawn, in the years just before this was drawn, and that could have been a possibility. But actually, the Wicked Fairy was based on Letitia's mother, Lowrie Fairbanks, and the Wise Wizard was based on her father, Robert Fairbanks, Douglas's brother.
And Robert, of course, he went to such great lengths to try and get this book published for Letitia.
Yes, well, he was the Fairbanks production manager, family production manager of sorts. He handled the bulk of Douglas's set designs, engineering needs, acrobatic stunt design, He was I believe, he was a founding member of the Academy in his own right. Robert Fairbanks was, as well as, I believe he's been credited with developing the role of production manager on the sets.
Wow.
And he had a lengthy history of promoting all sorts of family projects and was equally involved in Letitia's sister Lucille's brief film career and helping her get a start.
Wow. And who says nepotism doesn't work?
That's right.
Yeah, really.
Nepotism does work.
You know, for you as a young girl and having Letitia as a stepmother with this very storied, glamorous, magical Hollywood background and family relations, did you have any idea, the magnitude of who Douglas Fairbanks, Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., did you have any idea just how incredible and how important these people were?
No, not really. Not until I started researching and working on all of these projects about 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I had a vague awareness of it that I think in general anyone who might have looked at the history of film or knows things about the history of Hollywood might have had. But it was really amazing to me to discover the incredible list of accomplishments that Douglas and Mary made in their lifetimes. And it was, and really in a career that possibly lasted 20 years at most for both of them. And that was just full of stunning highlights that were firsts of everything. It's a bit like I try and tell younger people that just have no idea about the history of Hollywood. The coming of film to the world was such an introduction of technology. It really can only be described in modern terms, I think, or it's a good parallel to describe the introduction of Steve Jobs introducing the personal computing experience to the world. Right. It was that groundbreaking and game-changing, and it changed everything for not just the industry it was in, but all these other related ancillary industries.
Well,
and
I was going to say, Luke, as a director, has really got a different has a unique perspective. Being a director on that, I think that's a very great observation, Kelley, about personal computing changing the whole landscape in terms of being able to even make films, sit in your house and edit.
Yeah.
Because that world is opened
up. Well, it's that
some
kind of fundamental change.
So what made you decide to bring Princess April Morning Glory to the masses?
Well, I wanted to do it the moment Letitia died. In 1992, I rushed off to New York City with the original artwork, and I was like, okay, world, here I am. Let's publish it. This book is ready to go. I was quite naive and had no idea about publishing and not just about the business world of publishing, but the physical mechanics of publishing, which were actually quite challenging with this book. And so I've always wanted to do it. That was never in doubt. It was just waiting for things to come together at the right time. And as time progressed, since Letitia's death in 1992, I have met and married my husband, who's a graphic artist, known in the music world for his music posters that he drew in the 70s in Austin, Texas. And he has gone on to a teaching and academic career, and he developed techniques to actually restore the artwork and remove the bleed through, because these pages are printed in the original. They're printed just like an 1100, 1200 century manuscript. They're printed back to front on the same piece of paper. So that bleed through that happened anytime you shone light on the paper or reflected light through the paper had to be removed. And that really took the advent of personal computing and Photoshop to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So it couldn't really have been reliably reproduced until about, the late 1990s.
Mm-hmm.
And I met Danny about that time, and we married, and we were living in New Zealand, and he had some time on his hands, and that's when I said, let's start redoing this artwork. And he started in the process, and it took him about a year to do the initial cleanup of all 50 pages.
Wow. Of course, we're not going to tell Danny this is really what you had in mind when you married him, that this is why you married him.
I think he's figured that out.
Oh, well, okay.
Thanks for keeping it mum.
So, but then it took you, this came out in, 2012. The book finally came out.
2013. Yeah, it came out on the 72nd anniversary of the original copyright, which was issued only for the text because there was no way to reproduce the pages.
Wow. So now, who has the copyright on these lovely illustrations now?
Oh, the family. We do.
Okay.
Yeah, it's remained within the family. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Yes.
So now, how can everybody get a copy of their own copy of Princess April Morning Glory? Because I know there's the princessapril.com website. I know I've seen the book available on Amazon.
That's the best place. That's the best place. There's also an ebook edition available for those that want an ebook edition, and that can be gotten on Amazon as well.
Oh, now what plan? Now you're going to be back on the show in November, so that we can encourage people to get this for Christmas gifts. Which I think.
Yeah. So the best way is to go to Amazon and just enter Princess April Morning Glory, and it'll come right up.
Now, what kind of plans do you have for Princess April Morning Glory? I know when you and I spoke at the Culver Hotel, we talked. This would be beautiful as a little series. Are you paying attention, Luke? You're looking for a new project. I'm trying to work magic here for both of you guys.
You're doing a great job. That's why I like it.
Do you see this going into a video format or, custom hardback editions or something?
Any and all of these things are possible. And this is why I'm coming back out to LA in early 2018 to explore all of these options, because I sort of think it's really unlimited, and it really depends on who comes up and speaks to me with a vision that is interesting but more than anything gets the message of doing three good deeds out to the world, because that's what I want to do, is have the larger message. And I think one of the important things I want to talk about in getting a message of doing three good deeds out is it's not important that anybody know you've done the good deed. It's just important to do it. And it's most important to recognize when other people do good deeds rather than trying to tout your own. And this was the way I was always raised, that Dad and Tish always emphasized to me that I needed to make sure that I was always making the world a better place, always leaving it better than I found it, and that to help other people and to help your fellow man and men and women in living their lives to their fullest, that's one of the best good deeds you can do. And we need that kind of civility and respect for one another that I feel has been really lost in this whole modern discourse. And that's what I'm looking for, projects that will highlight these types of actions. And I'm not sure what form it's going to take, but I think the universe is going to have a fun time showing me.
Well, Kelley, we are almost out of time. I can't thank you enough for calling in. You know how much I love talking to you. And
oh, well, thank you, Debbie, and thank you, Luke, and
Charles.
Charles.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Charles.
Nice.
Yes,
Nice.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean Luke's been sitting here going through the book the whole time you're talking. I think he's I think he's fascinated with this.
Yeah.
But
Beautiful.
so
Well, we will have to catch up.
and you will be back in November, Thanksgiving week.
Yes.
Yes, the Monday before
Yep.
Thanksgiving, so everybody can work
November
on
20th?
their Black Friday shopping. We're going to give everybody a
Yes.
heads up then. But Kelley, thank you so much. In the meantime, anybody, Princess April Morning Glory, find it on Amazon, get it. It is charming. It is wonderful. The message is great. And of course, when you see the video from today's show, Kelley has sent me oodles and oodles of visuals from the book that Lydia is going to have to edit into the video of today's show so people can really get a feel for the beauty of Princess April Morning Glory. Kelley, thank you so much, my friend.
Oh, thank you, Debbie. It's been wonderful.
And I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye. And that was Kelley Smoot Garrett. So, what do you guys think? That good deeds? I mean, you do good deeds making films, putting Charles to work.
That's right. Putting me to work. That's right. That's
I think
a good
so.
deed.
Yes.
I think I think she's right about what she said. Is putting the good deeds out there is the best thing we can all do.
I look through this book and I think virtual reality, as far as a way of
well, and
expressing some of
Luke,
these.
because I love and adore you, you can have this copy of Princess April Morning Glory.
Oh my God!
No, isn't it
so
like
cool.
to you though? Isn't it? No, I don't want to. I don't want to steal your.
Oh,
I don't want.
I didn't even know that. Look at that.
Oh my God!
I should have just took it.
Oh, fine. Well, that's okay. I have another one at home.
Okay.
I'll give you the other. So that. Because I could see this in virtual reality.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
the whole idea and hearing her talk about it and
Right.
stuff. It seems a medium made for it, or to take it to another level.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know that was something we talked about in August when we were at the Culver Hotel.
Okay.
Because I met her at the Alicia Mayer event that we had. But we sat down and we were talking about, and she is so open to ideas because she knows there's such a potential here.
It seems like it would be a way of bridging those original prints that you were speaking of and
Right.
what I'm looking at right here.
Yeah.
It's very.
Because the originals, they're breathtaking. And I can understand the problems with technology
Sure. Yeah.
of putting them, on back to back, because all the originals are on single parchment.
Mm-hmm.
So when you try, the bleed through would be, I could just imagine what Danny went through trying to clean that up.
Right.
But another good deed that people can do right now, they can log on to Amazon
Right.
and buy a copy of Missing Child.
That's right.
It's available on Amazon.
Yes, it is.
Where else can people pick it up?
It's also from our website. We
Oh,
have it
well,
there,
give us
and-
the website.
Oh, it's missingchild-movie.
.com.
.com. It's it's there and on Amazon as well.
Along with the web series.
The web series, the long-awaited web series,
which
yes.
is free.
yes, yes.
You
it
have
is.
to pay for the Blu-ray,
Yes.
or you have to pay for the DVD.
Correct.
But
Right.
for my money, I think the Blu-ray is the way to go because it has more extras and stuff.
Right.
And has Ghost Tenant on it.
Has
See,
Ghost Tenant, yes.
Yes, and Ghost Tenant, Ghost Tenant is, I want to see that made into a feature
Yeah.
or a web series.
Yeah, I'm exploring a lot of possibilities with it. I could actually see as like as a series of some kind, like a continuing story. But kind of looking into all the things. Also, and like I said before, virtual reality, that avenue.
Yes.
It interests me a lot, and it would work well with Ghost Tenant. So.
Well, and sadly, we are all out of time for today.
no.
The whole
Oh,
show.
my God. Well,
We're done. Guys, Charles, Luke, thank you so much.
Thank you, Debbie.
I don't
Thank
want
you.
it to be 2 years before you come
I
back
know.
again.
Yeah,
Thank
yes,
you,
yes.
thank
We'll do
you,
it again
thank you.
soon.
We have to.
Thank you.
All right. So that is it for today. I'm Debbie Elias, and this is Behind the Lens.